The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
In a few moments, the news.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
(6:15). This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Catherine Pereira and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. An island-wide curfew imposed until Monday. The police media spokesman says that an emergency curfew is in place to provide security in order to continue the public services without hindrance. The Ministry of Education decides to allow only students who need essential educational activities from the 4th to the 8th of this month. Necessary measures taken to minimize deploying teachers for office work in schools. A consignment of 40,000 metric tons of diesel procured under the Indian assistance through a line of credit of $500 million arrived in the country today. Those were the headlines, and now more to the details of the local news. The Department of Government Information announced that an island-wide curfew will be imposed today at 6 p.m. The curfew order will be effective until 6 a.m. on Monday. The move comes days after a mass protest staged in Pagrivatta Road in Mirihana on Thursday evening. The Ministry of Education has decided to allow only students who need essential educational activities in government and government-approved private schools from the 4th of this month to the 8th. Permission has been granted for school principals to allow students only to sit for term examinations. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance.
And we continue with more local news. Education Director of the Western Province, Srilal Noni, said that necessary measures have been taken to minimize the deploying of teachers for office work in schools which have lack of teachers. The Provincial Education Department has paid attention in this regard. The development officers who have been recruited during the past period have been deployed for this purpose. He also stated that necessary advice has been given to schools to use electricity sparingly. A consignment of 40,000 metric tons of diesel procured under the Indian assistance through a line of credit of $500 million arrived in the country today. The diesel shipment was ceremoniously handed over by the Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle to Minister of Energy Gavin Lokage in Colombo. This is the fourth consignment of fuel Sri Lanka received under the line of credit from India. The fuel arrived from India to the people of Sri Lanka within the last 50 days amounts to 200,000 metric tons. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. An island-wide curfew imposed until Monday. The police media spokesman says that an emergency curfew is in place to provide security in order to continue public services without hindrance. The Ministry of Education decides to allow only students who need essential educational activities from the 4th to the 8th of this month. Necessary measures taken to minimize deploying of teachers for office work in school. A consignment of 40,000 metric tons of diesel procured under the Indian assistance through a line of credit of $500 million arrived in the country today. And that was the local news.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. A health insurance plan to honor our most valued elders by the protectors of the nation. We now give our treasured senior citizens access to the very best medical insurance, specially tailored for anyone over 60. What's more, you don't need medical screening to access this policy. And Medi60 covers a wide range of illnesses. Only from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
The your news story for this evening, police media spokesman Senior SP Nihal Thalduwa says that an emergency curfew is in place to provide security in order to continue the public services without any hindrance. He made this remark while participating in the Bharati program of the SLBC today. Law and order should be maintained when conducting protest campaigns to display public views. Because of the lawlessness of the general public when conducting protest campaign, it is imperative to implement the measures presently taken by the government. And that was the main news story.
Watch Life is brought to you by
More prizes, more gains with CIB New Year offers. Valuable gifts for every bill. 20% discount for bank cards until 10th of April. Visit CIB today.
And in Watch Life this evening, National Transport Commission is to introduce a special bus service to facilitate commuters during the upcoming Sinhala and Hindu New Year season from April 8th to the 19th. National Transport Commission Director General Nilan Miranda said that buses will leave the city of Colombo to other provinces until the 15th of April, and from 15th to the 19th, a similar operation will continue from the other provinces to the city of Colombo. And that came to you in Watch Light.
More prizes, more gains with CIB New Year offers. Valuable gifts for every bill. 20% discount for bank cards until 10th of April. Visit CIB today.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
No matter what anyone says, for your lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, Friendly Leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Headlines of the world news. UN says that Yemen warring parties agree 2 months truce. India and Australia sign trade deal. US announces $300 million defense package for Ukraine. Those are the headlines, and now more to the details of the world news. The UN says a 2-month truce has been agreed by the warring parties in Yemen. This is the first nationwide truce agreed since the year 2016 in a war which has killed nearly 400,000 people according to UN estimates. About 60% died from hunger, lack of health care, and unsafe water. The deal between the Saudi-led coalition and Iran-backed Houthi rebels, which can be extended if both agree, is scheduled to come into effect from today. Today is the first day of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan for many Muslims. US President Joe Biden hailed the UN brokered truce as a long-awaited reprieve of the Yemeni people. India and Australia have tentatively agreed on an economic cooperation agreement. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison witnessed the signing of the Australia-India Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement in a virtual ceremony today. The agreement, which is expected to come into effect after being formally approved by the two countries, will remove duties on more than 85% of Australian exports to India and 96% of Indian exports to Australia. The bilateral economic cooperation is expected to reduce the two countries' dependence on their biggest trading partner, China. The U.S. Defense Department has announced an additional $300 million in assistance for Ukraine in support of its effort to repel Russian forces. The Pentagon yesterday said the aid package includes laser-guided rocket systems, unmanned aerial systems, night vision devices, and ammunition. The official said since the start of the Biden administration, the U.S. has committed to more than $2.3 billion in security assistance to Ukraine. And to conclude the world news, the headlines once again. UN says that Yemen warring parties agree to 2 months truce. India and Australia sign trade deal. US announces $300 million defense package for Ukraine. And that was the world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
For your wheel lease, visit the Leasing Mahagedara. People's Leasing, Friendly Leasing Mahagedara. More information from the nearest People's Leasing branch.
People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Development News is brought to you by... Let's take coal out of the coconut tree and make the island thriving and prosperous. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
And And in development news, the Harita Dayak National Agricultural Home Garden Development Program was launched recently at Kathudu, Pulgasovita. The government has decided to implement this nationwide home gardening program with the intention of popularizing the concept of healthy, sufficient family unit by getting non-toxic fresh vegetable, fruits and herbs from their own home gardens. That came to you in the segment of development news.
Development news was brought to you by the coconut tree is well grown in almost all the parts of the island. It is an exceptional source of extra income. The shell, the husk and almost all the parts of the coconut tree makes you money, providing you with an excellent extra source of income. It will also help to nourish the economy of the country. You will be guided with all necessary informations regarding the coconut cultivation, with the novel cultivation techniques and all other related and upgraded informations by the Coconut Research Institute, Lunavilla. Call our hotline 1928. WhatsApp 070 400 1928.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Moving on to sports news, the third ODI between Pakistan and Australia is being held in Lahore, Pakistan currently. Winning the toss, Pakistan first decided to field. Australia scored 114 runs for the loss of 5 wickets at the end of the 26th over. And still in sports news, the organising committee says that the final Super Cup 2022 football tournament, which was to be at the Sukadasa Stadium, has been cancelled. That was the sports news. Business news coming up.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, in a bid to increase the practice of green gardening in the local construction industry, the Green Building Council of Sri Lanka will host the first ever National Green Expo 2022 from the 27th of May to the 29th at the BMICH. Being the pioneering organisation committed to promoting environmental friendly sustainability in Sri Lanka, we now see a steady shift by constructors towards adopting green building practices, and this exhibition will display how green building techniques can make an improvement, the chairman said. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business news sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
And in economic news, Sri Lanka's trade deficit expanded in January 2022 due to continued expansion of import expenditure despite high exports earnings exceeding $1 billion for the 8th consecutive month, the central bank report said yesterday in its external sector performance review for the month. From the economic news, let's move on to the weather report. The Met Department says showers or thunder showers will occur over most parts of the island during the evening or night. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in the western, Sabaragamuwa and central provinces and in the Galle and Mathura districts. And before we conclude this bulletin of news, let's get back to the headlines once again. An island-wide curfew imposed until Monday. The police media spokesman says that an emergency curfew is in place to provide security in order to continue public services without hindrance. The Ministry of Education decides to allow only students who need essential educational activities from the 4th to the 8th of this month. Necessary measures taken to minimize deploying of teachers for office work in school. A consignment of 40,000 metric tons of diesel procured under the Indian assistance through a line of credit of $500 million arrived in the country today. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news.